The One Thing is a self-help book written by Gary Keller and Jay Papasan. The book focuses on the concept of productivity and how to achieve success by focusing on your most important task or goal. The authors argue that by identifying your one thing and dedicating your time and energy to completing it, you can achieve more with less effort and increase your productivity. Throughout the book, Keller and Papasan provide insights, strategies, and examples to help readers identify their one thing, eliminate distractions, and develop habits that support productivity. The book is divided into several chapters, each focusing on a different aspect of productivity and how to achieve success. Overall, The One Thing provides a practical and actionable guide to increasing productivity and achieving success. Whether you're a student, professional, or entrepreneur, the concepts and strategies outlined in the book can help you maximize your time and energy and achieve your goals. Chapter 1: The One Thing. The chapter begins with a quote from the philosopher Seneca: "If one does not know to which port one is sailing, no wind is favorable." The authors use this quote to illustrate the importance of having a clear focus and direction in life. The chapter then introduces the concept of the one thing as the key to achieving success. The authors argue that focusing on one thing is more effective than trying to multitask or juggle multiple priorities. They also emphasize the importance of identifying what the one thing is for each individual and setting goals accordingly. The authors then introduce the focusing question, which is a question that helps individuals identify their one thing and prioritize their actions accordingly. The focusing question is, what's the one thing I can do such that by doing it, everything else will be easier or unnecessary? Finally, the chapter concludes by emphasizing the importance of taking action on the one thing and not getting sidetracked by distractions or competing priorities. The authors argue that by focusing on the one thing, individuals can achieve extraordinary results in their personal and professional lives. Chapter 2: The Domino Effect. The authors argue that focusing on the one thing can have a domino effect on other areas of our lives, leading to positive changes and greater success. The chapter begins by describing the domino effect as a chain reaction in which a small action can lead to bigger and bigger results. The authors use the example of a single domino being able to knock over a much larger domino, and how this principle applies to our actions and goals. The authors then introduce the success habit as a way of leveraging the domino effect to achieve success. The success habit involves identifying the one thing that will make the biggest difference in achieving our goals, and then making it a habit to focus on that one thing every day. The chapter goes on to describe how the success habit can lead to positive changes in other areas of our lives, such as improved health, relationships, and finances. The authors also discuss how the domino effect can work in reverse, with negative habits and behaviors leading to negative consequences. Chapter 3: Success Leaves Clues. The authors argue that by studying successful people and their habits, we can learn valuable lessons and apply them to our own lives. The chapter begins by introducing the concept of modeling, which involves observing and emulating the behaviors and habits of successful people. The authors argue that by studying successful individuals in our field or industry, we can learn what works and what doesn't, and apply those lessons to our own lives. The authors then go on to describe how success is often the result of a few key habits or behaviors. They provide several examples of successful individuals who have achieved their goals by focusing on one thing and making it a habit. The authors also discuss how successful people tend to be disciplined, organized, and have a clear sense of purpose. The chapter then goes on to provide specific strategies for modeling success, such as seeking out mentors, networking with successful individuals, and reading biographies or case studies of successful people. The authors emphasize the importance of being intentional and proactive in seeking out these opportunities. Chapter 4: The Journey. This chapter explores the idea that success is not just about achieving a particular goal, but also about the journey and the lessons learned along the way. The authors argue that by embracing the process and focusing on the journey, we can achieve greater fulfillment and satisfaction in our lives. The chapter begins by describing the arrival fallacy, which is the idea that we will be happy and fulfilled once we achieve a particular goal. The authors argue that this is a flawed way of thinking, and that true fulfillment comes from the process and the journey, not just the end result. The authors then go on to describe the importance of setting goals that are aligned with our values and passions. They argue that by focusing on what truly matters to us, we can stay motivated and committed throughout the journey. The chapter also discusses the importance of embracing failure and setbacks as opportunities for growth and learning. The authors provide several examples of successful individuals who experienced failure and setbacks along the way, but persisted and ultimately achieved their goals. Finally, the chapter concludes by emphasizing the importance of enjoying the journey and celebrating small victories along the way. The authors argue that by focusing on the process and the journey, we can achieve greater fulfillment and satisfaction in our lives, even if we don't ultimately achieve all of our goals. Chapter 5: The 6 Lies. This chapter explores common misconceptions that can hold us back from achieving our goals. The authors argue that by recognizing and overcoming these lies, we can unlock our full potential and achieve extraordinary success. The chapter begins by introducing the first lie, which is that everything matters equally. The authors argue that this is a flawed way of thinking, and that by focusing on the one thing that will make the biggest difference, we can achieve much greater results. The second lie is that multitasking is essential. The authors argue that multitasking is actually counterproductive, and that by focusing on one thing at a time, we can achieve greater productivity and effectiveness. The third lie is that a disciplined life equals a rigid life. The authors argue that discipline is actually liberating, and that by establishing habits and routines, we can create more freedom and flexibility in our lives. The fourth lie is that willpower is always on will call. The authors argue that willpower is a finite resource, and that by conserving it and establishing habits and routines, we can achieve greater success without relying on sheer willpower. The fifth lie is that a balanced life is a successful life. The authors argue that balance is a myth, and that by prioritizing what truly matters and being willing to make sacrifices, we can achieve extraordinary success. The sixth and final lie is that big is bad. The authors argue that thinking small can limit our potential, and that by thinking big and setting audacious goals, we can achieve extraordinary success. The chapter concludes by reminding readers that these lies can hold us back from achieving our full potential, and that by recognizing and overcoming them, we can achieve extraordinary success and fulfillment in our lives. Chapter 6: The Myth of Multitasking. The idea of multitasking, or performing multiple tasks simultaneously, has become increasingly prevalent in modern society. Many people believe that multitasking is an effective way to increase productivity and get more done in less time. However, research has shown that multitasking is not as effective as people think it is and can actually be harmful to productivity and overall well-being. The myth of multitasking is that it allows us to accomplish more in less time. However, what actually happens when we multitask is that our brain switches rapidly between tasks, which can result in decreased efficiency and accuracy. Studies have shown that when we switch tasks, we can lose up to 40% of our productivity due to the time it takes our brain to refocus on the new task. Furthermore, when we try to do too many things at once, our brain becomes overloaded, and we may experience stress, anxiety, and a feeling of being overwhelmed. This can lead to decreased job satisfaction and even burnout. So, what can we do instead of multitasking? The key is to focus on one task at a time and eliminate distractions. This means turning off notifications on our devices, closing unnecessary tabs on our computer, and setting aside specific times to check email and social media. By focusing on one task at a time, we can increase our productivity and improve the quality of our work. We can also reduce stress and improve our overall well-being. It's important to remember that we are not machines and that our brains need time to rest and recharge. By avoiding the myth of multitasking, we can work smarter, not harder, and achieve our goals more efficiently. Chapter 7: The Truth About Willpower. Willpower is the ability to control our impulses and make decisions that align with our long-term goals. It's often seen as a key ingredient for success, but the truth about willpower is that it's a limited resource that can be depleted over time. Research has shown that our willpower is like a muscle that can become fatigued with use. This means that if we spend too much time resisting temptations or making difficult decisions, we may eventually run out of willpower and give in to our impulses. Additionally, our willpower can be influenced by external factors such as stress, lack of sleep, and hunger. When we're under stress or not getting enough sleep, our willpower reserves can become depleted more quickly. So, what can we do to maintain our willpower and avoid burnout? One strategy is to prioritize our most important tasks when our willpower is strongest, which is typically earlier in the day. We can also try to eliminate unnecessary decisions or temptations by creating routines and habits that align with our goals. Another key factor is to take care of our physical and emotional well-being. This means getting enough sleep, managing stress, and taking breaks when we need them. When our basic needs are met, we have more energy and mental clarity to make decisions that align with our goals. Finally, it's important to remember that willpower is not the only factor in achieving success. We can also rely on external support systems, such as accountability partners or mentors, to help us stay motivated and focused on our goals. Chapter 8: The Four Thieves. The four thieves is a concept that refers to the four factors that commonly steal our time, energy, and productivity. These four thieves are procrastination, perfectionism, distraction, and overcommitment. Procrastination is the act of delaying tasks or putting them off until the last minute. This can lead to stress, anxiety, and decreased productivity. To combat procrastination, it's important to break tasks down into smaller, more manageable steps and set realistic deadlines. Perfectionism is the belief that everything must be done perfectly or not at all. This can lead to spending too much time on tasks or avoiding them altogether due to fear of failure. To combat perfectionism, it's important to prioritize progress over perfection and acknowledge that mistakes and failures are a natural part of the learning process. Distraction is the act of being pulled away from a task by external factors such as social media, email, or other interruptions. To combat distraction, it's important to eliminate or minimize distractions by turning off notifications, setting boundaries with coworkers or family members, and setting aside dedicated time for focused work. Overcommitment is the act of taking on too many tasks or responsibilities, which can lead to feeling overwhelmed and burned out. To combat overcommitment, it's important to prioritize our most important tasks and say no to tasks or commitments that do not align with our goals or values. By understanding and addressing these four thieves, we can improve our productivity, reduce stress, and achieve our goals more efficiently. It's important to remember that we can't eliminate these thieves entirely, but we can develop strategies and habits to manage them effectively. Chapter 9: The One Thing You Can Do. The one thing you can do to increase your productivity and achieve your goals is to focus on your most important task, or your one thing. This means identifying the one task that will have the biggest impact on your goals and dedicating your time and energy to completing it before moving on to other tasks. The idea of focusing on one thing is based on the Pareto principle, or the 80-20 rule, which states that 80% of our results come from 20% of our efforts. By identifying and focusing on our most important task, we can maximize our productivity and achieve our goals more efficiently. To identify your one thing, start by setting clear and specific goals. Ask yourself what you want to achieve in the short term and the long term, and identify the tasks that will have the biggest impact on those goals. Once you've identified your one thing, prioritize it above all other tasks and dedicate your time and energy to completing it. It's important to remember that focusing on your one thing does not mean neglecting other important tasks. Rather, it means prioritizing your most important task and using your remaining time and energy to complete other tasks that support your goals. To stay focused on your one thing, it can be helpful to eliminate distractions, set specific deadlines, and track your progress. Additionally, taking breaks and practicing self-care can help you stay motivated and maintain your productivity over the long term. In summary, the one thing you can do to increase your productivity and achieve your goals is to focus on your most important task. By identifying your one thing, prioritizing it above all other tasks, and using your time and energy efficiently, you can maximize your productivity and achieve your goals more efficiently. Chapter 10: The One Thing You Can Do Right Now. The one thing you can do right now to increase your productivity and improve your life is to take action on your most important task or goal. This means identifying the one task or goal that is most pressing or important, and taking immediate action towards completing it. To take action on your most important task or goal, start by breaking it down into smaller, more manageable steps. Identify the next action or task that you can take towards completing it, and focus all of your energy and attention on completing that one task. It's important to remember that taking action doesn't have to be perfect or even necessarily the right action, but it's important to start somewhere. The key is to take action and make progress, rather than getting stuck in indecision or procrastination. Another strategy to take action is to set a specific deadline or schedule dedicated time for working on your most important task or goal. By creating a sense of urgency or accountability, you can increase your motivation and focus on taking action. Additionally, seeking support or guidance from others can help you take action and make progress towards your goals. Whether it's finding a mentor, joining a support group, or simply asking a friend for accountability, having support and encouragement can make a big difference in taking action. Chapter 11: The One Thing to Take Away. The one thing to take away from this book is the importance of focusing on your most important task or goal to achieve success and increase productivity. This means identifying your one thing and dedicating your time and energy to completing it before moving on to other tasks. To identify your one thing, start by setting clear and specific goals, and then prioritize the tasks that will have the biggest impact on those goals. It's important to remember that focusing on your one thing doesn't mean neglecting other important tasks, but rather, it means prioritizing your most important task and using your remaining time and energy to complete other tasks that support your goals. In addition to focusing on your one thing, it's important to develop habits and strategies that support productivity, such as eliminating distractions, setting deadlines, and practicing self-care. Ultimately, the key to success is taking action and making progress towards your goals, even if it's just taking small steps. Remember, progress is better than perfection, and by consistently focusing on your one thing and taking action towards your goals, you can achieve success and live a more fulfilling life.